So here we can think about 5 ways we could use these jump rope reader books. The first one is, let's not wait. Let's get decodable books into kids' hands once we match them to books. We don't always have to pull them first to do a small group to get these books into their hands. You can support your readers during one-on-one coaching conferences. You could support your readers in a small group with these decodable books. You could do a little read aloud with these books. And you can even use these books to support your writing instruction. So in the jump rope readers, some of you or many of you may know that we include a phonic decoding assessment with word lists that move from simple phonics concepts to more complex. And so the beginning ones start with CVC, short A, I, O, and it will continue on and on to all the short vowels until we get into vowel teams and R controlled. You would be correct if this reminds you of your literacy screener. We know that schools all over are using screeners. However, there are some key differences between a decoding assessment and a screener. Often a screener is timed and you are measuring accuracy and automaticity because the goal is to identify children who might face reading difficulties. In a decoding assessment, you want to see what a reader does. You want to get a look into their decoding process. You want to keep assessing until you identify a level where there's work for a reader to do. Not too easy, but not too frustrating. Generally, you can be confident matching a reader to a level when their accuracy falls between 80% and 100%, suggesting proficiency with that phonics content. When a reader decodes less than 80% of the words, this can help inform your instruction, the phonics to focus on next in your small group. So if your kids are in that 80% to 100% and you've matched them, you could go to the jump rope readers to say, oh, here's some great books that I think you would be interested in reading, and put those books into kids' hands right away for their book baggie or for their independent time. Then for the kids who are below that 80%, then you could pull them in a small group to use an instructional phonics text to support that next step for them. So as your kids are working independently, we know one way to support during that independent work time is to meet with kids one-on-one and do some coaching. We could coach in these books to support decoding. We can support fluency and comprehension. For this example, let's say the student needs support with decoding. Here's how this coaching conference might go. So as I pull up next to a student, they're reading this book, A Trip to the Vet. They're just starting chapter 2. And I might say, Maya, can I hear you read? Let me listen to you read a little bit. And as Maya's reading, I'm listening for how she's decoding. Is she monitoring? Is she self-correcting? What does she do when she gets stuck? And depending on what happens and how much support, I would coach into that. So she might read, if a pet gets suck, if a pet gets, and so I might coach and say, check that, can you try it again? Really being less supportive, opening it up to see, will just that prompt get Maya to go back and fix it and really slide through. Then I might say, if she's still not getting it, slide through the sounds. You can even bring your finger and make sure you slide through the sounds to put it together to make a word. And so maybe she's able to get it that time. Maybe she still needs support. If she still needs support, I might zoom into a coaching that supports the letters and the sounds, that really supports the phonics. So I might say, maybe she goes, if a pet gets sick, check that ending sound. What letters are those? What sound does CK make? Okay, put it together. And so now I'm zooming in more to the phonics work. If she needs heavy support, I might say, Let's do this together. Slide through the sounds with me. Remember, CK says k, sick, sick. Now put it together to make a word. And so then Maya keeps reading. The vet can help dogs and rabbits. The vet can help rog and cats. So again, I might say, go back and check that. Make sure you slide through all the sounds. And again, depending how much support and depending if she's able to self-correct, I might prompt more, or we might be ready to move on. So I might say, look at those first two letters, make sure you blend them together. Now blend through the whole word. If she needs even more support, I might say, watch me do it. So now I'm gonna demo, and then Maya will practice. Frogs, frogs. Now I gotta put it together to make a word. Frogs. Yeah, you could take a frog to the vet. That makes sense. The vet can help frogs and rats. So during this one-on-one conference, you can see the coaching moves that I'm doing. You can also find these coaching moves, what we call coaching guides, in the new units of study. We have them for decoding, we have them for monitoring, we have them for comprehension. So first I want to give children an opportunity and just wait to see on their own, do they go back and check it and fix it or self-correct it? If not, I want to give a transferable prompt, opening it up so that hopefully when kids are off on their own, they remember, use your slider power, slide through the sounds, now put them together. That would be that transferable prompt. If that doesn't work, then you go to the word specific, really thinking about the phonics. So it might be, remember, a digraph is when we have letters together to make one sound, right? And so you might be zooming in on it. And then when needed, you might have to come in and model and say, watch me do this. Now you try it. So our one-on-one coaching conference. If we were going to work with kids another way with the jump rope readers, we could of course use these in a small group. And again, you could be doing a small group around fluency. You could do a small group around comprehension. For today's purposes, I'm gonna talk us through a small group with decoding. So in this book that kids are gonna be reading, it's a book where it's really review of short vowels, blends, and digraphs. So I might say, readers, we've really been learning lots about our letters and sounds and remembering our digraphs and our blends. Let's do a little warm up. And you might have readers either read these words, whether it's with you or with a partner, or you might have these kids write these words on a whiteboard to check in on that reading and writing connection. And so I would have kids read off these words, making sure they're blending through the sounds, using slider power, making sure they're paying attention to digraphs. And so they do a little warm up. Okay, readers, now we're ready to read our new book. So readers, I have a new book for you. It's called Do Skunks Stink? Oh my gosh. When you think of a skunk, what comes to your mind? And maybe they do a little bit of a turn and talk. Skunks are famous for being super stinky. If a skunk feels scared, it will lift its tail up and shoot out its spray to protect itself. Let's look at the word spray. And so these are the content words that are technically not decodable for kids at this point, although some kids might be able to read them. And so I might say, let's point to the word spray. Let's say it together to introduce these words. And then the skunk spray often feels really smelly, like rotten eggs. When most animals smell that spray, they leave the skunk, they run away. And then I would introduce Ranger because they meet a park ranger in this book. Readers, a park ranger is a grown-up who helps make sure the park is clean. And so again, pointing to that word, introducing it. And this book, the park ranger is teaching the kids about skunks. Let's continue to learn about this book. And so then you might do a little reading of the back page. What is that smell? Yuck, it stinks. Is it rotten eggs? No, it's a skunk. So readers, we're gonna see all the things that we learn about skunks in this book. And so again, you'll decide on the method kids are gonna do. They might read a couple of pages with you as a heavy scaffold, a shared reading, and then you might say read with your partner as you're going into coach, or you might say read with your partner and then read on your own. So I'm just going to read this book so that we get a sense of it, because it's going to help us to think through the next part of this. So think about what you're learning about skunks in this chapter. Not so bad. Tevin, do you smell that? I think it's your best pal. Quit it, Janelle. Look, I see a ranger. And look, Tevin, it is your best pal, a skunk. Yuck, skunks stink. And you can see the little skunk's tail going into the bush. So you think that skunk stinks? Well, let me tell you, skunks are not so bad. All skunks are shy. They do not want to spray you. If you upset a skunk, it will jump up and stomp. It wants you to go. Get lost, pal. If you do not go, the skunk will lift up its back end, and then it's 3, 2, 1, blast off. So you will not get lost, then get a whiff of this. The spray is a mist. Bam! When it hits you, it will smell like rotten eggs. When you get hit, this is what you must do to get rid of that bad, bad stink. Run, 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 and jump in the tub, then scrub a dub-dub. So right now you could put in the chat box, what are you learning from just this first chapter about skunks? Go ahead, put it into the chat box. So one thing I talked about is that we could use these nonfiction jump rope readers in a small group where they're learning about one topic, but we could also do some cross-text synthesis work. And so I was saying earlier, these books are written into mini text sets. And so one is about Do Skunks Stink? And it's all about skunks. The second book is called Is That a Stink Bug? Which is another smelly animal. And so as kids are reading, they could be thinking about, what did they learn about these stinky skunks in the first book? How does it connect to this stinky stink bug? And how is it different? So let's think about that now. Let's do a little bit of that work. So in my small group, I might have kids start off by recalling what they learned from the first book, Do Skunks Stink? Readers, try to remember what you learned. What did that book teach us? What do we learn about that topic? And so they do a little bit of a turn and talk. Now, as we read this new book, we can think about learning across both books. We might be thinking about what we're seeing that's the same and how they connect, and what we're learning that is different. This book is called, Is That a Stink Bug? Some insects are super smelly, like stink bugs. Stink bugs are a kind of insect. They're called stink bugs because when they need to protect themselves from danger, they shoot out a super stinky spray, like skunks do. Oh, are you learning anything already that's similar, that's the same from what you learned about the first book? So readers, as we read, let's be thinking about how these books, how these topics fit together. And you might stop and read and think, oh, I already knew and now I'm learning. Or you might think, I learned and this goes with, as a way to support you. And so again, you might read a couple of pages with your students and do a little bit of this work together, and then you could have them read with their partner. So let's just hear a little bit about this, and you could be thinking about how the information is connecting or how it's different. Chapter 1, do not step on it. Look at this. Yuck. What is it? This is a stink bug. Let me tell you all what this bug is like. Stink bugs are pests. They do not sting, but they do stink. So readers, you might already be thinking about some of the connections between the two topics. What did you learn about skunks? What are you learning about the stink bug? That's the same. Let's keep reading. In fact, they can smell as bad as a skunk. Sniff, sniff, what is that bad smell? If you see a stink bug, do not panic, do not try to catch it, and do not try to whack it. Whack. If you do, the stink bug will blast you with its stink. If you see a stink bug, do not try to step on it. Step. If you do, its bad smell will last for so long. Ack! When will this smell end? So again, if you want, you could be thinking about this or put it in the chat box. What are you learning across these two topics? What are you learning about skunks and stink bugs that are connecting? What are you learning that's different? So we know that they both put out this spray that really smells awful, like rotten eggs. And we learned that both the skunk and the stink bug really only do that when they're being bothered, right? So let's not bother the skunks and the stink bug. And then at the end, of course, you would wrap up with the link reminding them of your focus for today. So just doing a little bit of cross-text synthesis to grow their knowledge, to grow vocabulary, as a way to support kids with these nonfiction jump rope readers. So two more things, and just looking at the time. In the Nonfiction Jump Rope Readers, there is a back page that says learn more about. And so whatever's happening in the nonfiction book, usually we will take a topic or some type of connection from it and give more information around it. Now, this isn't meant to be every time you meet with a group that you have to do this read aloud section, but it is a nice way to extend and grow knowledge, especially if kids are so fascinated about these stinky animals. So I'll just read a little bit more. So you could be thinking about, what are you learning across these three texts? How is this information the same to one another? How is it different? Super smelly animals. Stink bugs and skunks are not the only super smeller animals in the world. A bird called the hoatzin is so smelly that it's nicknamed the stink bird. Many birds eat bugs and seeds, but not the stink bird. It eats leaves. As the bird's stomach digests the leaves, it gives off a stinky odor. What does it smell like? Cow manure. Oh, ooh. And so it goes on, teaching kids about other smelly, stinky animals like a lesser anteater and a musk ox. So you can definitely continue to build off of this work by using this little read aloud section as needed, as kids who are interested in it. The last thing I want to talk about with the use of the nonfiction jump rope readers, which you can also do with the fiction jump rope readers, is when you're in your writing units of study, we know that we could use the books that we're reading in reading as mentor texts for writing. And so after kids have read it and they've talked about it and they've comprehended that book, we could go back to a text or part of a text to say, what are we learning from this author? What kind of writing moves are they doing that we could try in our own nonfiction, all about books or topic books? And we can use the charts from the unit as a way to support that thinking. And so this chart comes from the first grade unit. Topic books, writers teach in words and pictures. So do we see any evidence of adding examples? Are there any bold words or definitions? Are there diagrams? Are there comparisons? What about how the pictures give examples and support or add exactly how something looks? And there might be other things we're noticing that's not on the chart. So let me just reread a little bit. All skunks are shy. They do not want to spray you. Get lost, pal. If you upset a skunk, it will jump up and stomp. It wants you to go. So right there, we can see those exact actions. That's something that writers can try in their own writing, right? When you upset a skunk, it will jump up and stomp. There's even some speech bubble, right, in this narrative nonfiction kind of text. So kids might be trying that in their own nonfiction writing. If you do not go, the skunk will lift up its back end. Then it's 3, 2, 1, blast off. So another example of showing exact actions. The pictures are teaching even more, right? We can see that spray, that mist going off into that, towards that child. And there's even comparison. The spray is a mist, bam. When it hits you, it will smell like rotten eggs. So here were just 5 possible ways for you to use these nonfiction jump rope readers. I hope this was helpful for you.